G'day, it's Brak here, and today we're going to talk about changes, in particular the FAQ and Errata, which was dropped in the 7th of this month, so about 2 weeks ago. But we're going to be looking at it from a Orky perspective. So what did those changes which happened in the FAQ/Errata, how do they affect Orks? But first, we're going to discuss coffee. This show is brought to you by Daka Flacka Flame, who bought me a coffee on the Buy Me a Coffee app. And so thanks to you, Daka Flacka Flame. I keep getting your name mixed up. It's a bit of a mouthful. It's a wonderful name, but it gets the old tongue tied. So cheers. Oh, a bit hot, that one. If you'd like to help support the channel, you too can buy me a coffee at the Buy Me a Coffee app. Link in the description. Okay, let's go and have a look and see how these changes affected Orks. Let's start off by going over the basics. So what is an Errata or an FAQ? As you may or may not be aware, GW publish a lot of books which can be classified as rule sets. We've got rule books and codices or codices or codex. But every now and then GW decide that the rules need to be updated or clarified. And they do this in the form of what they call erratas or an FAQ. Going back to basics here, an FAQ is basically short for frequently asked questions. And the idea here is that someone was unsure how a rule worked and they asked a question. A lot of someones did. Well, that's in theory. I suspect, but I can't prove it, that GW do these frequently asked questions as a bit of a buffer, trying to get out some clarifications before the questions are actually asked. Or not, I don't really know for certain. But some of those questions are a little bit of a head scratcher. I tend to look at them and go, really? Someone actually asked that? Look, predicting answers and putting FAQ is nothing new. Many businesses do this. And erratas, well, it's as the name suggests. These are just when they have fixed any mistakes or maybe some clarifications of rules which have sort of gone awry. Reasons they may do this: one, to address codex creep. Sometimes when a new codex is dropped, it seems to be a lot more powerful. So they might bring out erratas to address those issues and try and balance the game a little bit better. Well, sometimes. Sometimes they do it, sometimes they get it right, sometimes they don't. But I suppose it's all about providing clarity. Well, maybe. Some of these rules can be a tad confusing. And sometimes they're just to fix rules that Games Workshop got wrong in the first place, one of which I will be mentioning a little bit later. For this video, I did peruse a lot of the updates to try and work out what was good or what was bad for Orks. And I am sort of glad to say that really overall a lot of the rules didn't really change how we may play Orks on the tabletop. The changes I did find can be classified into two groups: point changes and fixing blatant mistakes. Well, it's a blatant mistake in my opinion. I'll talk about that a little later. Let's look at point changes really quickly. I won't go into this in too much detail because good old 6 Plus Stevo has already done the work for me. So I suggest you go over to his video. There will be a little link flashing up the top screen there if I have done my editing correctly. If not, there will be a link below in the description. To summarize things, many units, Ork units, had change in points, and they also had weapons point changes. It was quite confusing, but it was really just a lot of creative accounting, which meant a whole lot of nothing actually happened. A majority of the units basically have stayed the same. There are only 3 units which had any real point differences, and let's go and have a look at them now. The good old big mech, well, the big mech with the custom force field, he's now down 15 points, thus making him what is in my opinion almost an auto include once again. It's nice to see that they fixed some confusion here. When they added him back into the Saga of the Beast book, it was, oh look, as I said, really confusing. There were some bizarre decisions had been made. But now that's all fixed. The custom force field no longer is clan only, and it will only is affected against range weapons only, which is, in my opinion, a good thing, bringing back the custom force field back to the way that good old Gork, or maybe Mork, meant it to be. Knobs on warbikes. They went up 5 points. Why? I'm not quite sure about that. I'm not even sure if they were being used. Regardless, their price went up. Another interesting change is that they moved from fast attack to the elite slot. Personally, I think this is a good thing because the fast attack just had so many spots, especially if you want to run a speed freak-esque type army. At least this way, you can do at least 3 units of knobs on warbikes to fill up those elite slots. I'm not quite sure how effective that is. I run deathskulls and very rarely use bikes, so I don't know. We'll have to see if we can find an Evil Sons player who might be able to tell us if this will work or not. Let's talk about rule erratas. Now, all through the various publications, there's been some changes, but mostly minor, and they're meant to improve things. Now, I touched on that earlier, so we won't go too much into that. What is really important here that I need to highlight is that there is one change concerning Orks which I think needs to be talked about, and it is the change that we have been waiting for. It's not its official name, but I'm going to be calling it the open top rule. Now on the screen here are a whole lot of rules to do while shooting while embarked on a transport. And it covers, well, basically what you can do if you want to have a shot while you're riding in a transport. The important rule here, well, important to Orks, is the one that is circled in red. And what it says is, any abilities, including detachment abilities, that models in an embarked unit have, or that their weapons have, continue to apply when they make ranged attacks. Now, why is this important? Let's have a look at this a bit deeper. It's one of those rules that sort of rarely came up. Well, only if you had an open top vehicle. There aren't that many open top vehicles in the game. I think Orks have 2 trucks, and there is an option for battle wagons. Other factions, I'm not quite sure. Maybe Harlequins, I think Jakari, but I'm very unsure if other factions have open top vehicles, which is probably why it was missed in the first place. When 9 dropped, there was a rule which basically said that if you're on or in a vehicle, you couldn't use your abilities. This being taken with rules as written, which basically meant that units like tank busters couldn't do their reroll when targeting vehicles. And there are a few other instances which I'm not really going to go into, but basically it meant that you couldn't put a tank buster in a truck, or for that matter, putting any shooting unit in a truck didn't seem to be a good thing to do because you couldn't use their abilities. Now, I think that this was a rule that shouldn't have been broken. I think it was an oversight. Quite a surprising oversight when you consider that GW said that this edition had been play tested in the community to catch all mistakes. Well, they did in this one, and yes, I'm a little bit antsy about this. It always did bug me. I think I even wrote an email to them, but I didn't get a reply. Regardless, they fixed it now, so I'm a little happy about that. It's just took them a little while for them to do it. So this is good. Tank busters can get their rerolls and flash gits can show off. But unfortunately, no more unlimited squig bombs, which was a sort of a way to get around that silly rule, or at least to negotiate with a rules as written person to accepting rules as attended. I suspect now that we have seen this change that we will probably see more trucks, and I know I will be putting more trucks on the field now because of this rule. So hooray! Well, you wouldn't believe it that I had forgot to talk about the Stomper. I only noticed this while I was trying to add some cards onto the almost completed video, which is almost uploaded to the YouTubes. But I caught it in time, and so I should talk about it now. I'm just chucking it here on the end so that we can discuss that. Now, I think the main reason why I had forgotten about it was because it really is a whole lot of nothing, this 5-point decrease. Big whoop-de-doo. Yeah, look, I, like many people, are a bit disappointed. Now, there is 900 points for a Stomper. We're still not going to take it. It's way too expensive. So, thank you very much for that, GW. Well, there you have it. There are the changes. Well, the important changes to Orks anyway, from the recent FAQ and erratas. So, what did you think? Which rule change do you like the most? Or do you think, no, they got it wrong there? Have I missed anything? Is there a rule that you noticed which will be good for Orks that I did not mention? Did GW miss anything? Are there still areas out there that Games Workshop need to address? Please put your comments down below in the comments, which is it's where they should be, I suppose. All right, before I start going on to a rambling mess, I think it is time for me to leave. So if you are going crumping, remember to bash early and bash often. I hope you enjoyed this video. You can show your appreciation by liking, sharing and subscribing. Also, please don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can catch all my latest videos. Due to the global Nurgle related circumstances, I'm currently doing this full time. I would really appreciate it if you could show your support by becoming a Patreon member. For as little as $3 US, you can help me with my hobby and filming equipment. If you feel you can't commit long term, then you can always buy me a coffee. The links will be below in the description.